Welcome to Unite Now, where we bring unity to you, wherever you are.
Welcome to Getting Personal with Analytics. My name is Mark Robinson, and I'm General Manager at deltaDNA. For those of you that don't know, deltaDNA joined the Unity family about 6 months ago. We provide deep analytics and rich real-time CRM via our platform, but we also have a consulting team full of game designers, data scientists, and messaging strategy live ops guys. We sit on a deep and rich source of data, and our consulting teams work with our clients to uncover best practices in player management, improving KPIs, and focusing on making games successful. We use this data to show trends in the industry. It's obvious that we're on a journey in the games industry, and data is now powering development and live management of games in a way that it hasn't done before. So what I wanted to do over the next 30 to 40 minutes is share with you some of the industry trends that we're seeing in terms of capabilities and sophistication. We can talk about design and engagement best practices. I'd like to take you through a real-life case study with one of our clients to show improvements that sophisticated CRM in games can deliver. I'll finish up talking a little bit about the future. So let's talk a little bit about trends. As I said, we sit on this great data resource. So what we did was we compared 2016 revenues to 2019 revenues to see how the industry was progressing. And we discovered something really, really exciting and notable. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, we've got App Store positions on the horizontal axis, and on the vertical axis we've charted gross revenue. The blue line is 2016 revenues and the pink line is 2019 revenues. What you can see as you look down the app chart positions is that at the top of the charts the revenues are large, over $100 million per year, but they haven't increased that much. As you go down the App Store rankings, position 100 starts to open up a gap between 2016 and 2019, and at position 1000 there's an even greater gap. What this shows is that through the course of those 3 years, the 19% growth in mobile games overall has been very focused between positions 100 and positions 1000 in the charts. This is great news for developers and publishers because you do not have to be at the top of the charts to make profitable and successful games. In fact, the revenue growth at position 100 has moved from roughly $2.5 million a year to over $5 million a year. And at position 1000, the growth has been even more dramatic, from $250,000 a year to over $1.5 million a year. This is based on deltaDNA data. deltaDNA shows a very strong sample of the gaming industry and a strong representation of games across regions, territories, and genres. So we're proud to see that the improvement in the games industry is much more even-handed. It seems much more sustainable. And we would like to think that part of the reason that we're seeing these strong growth in revenues is due to the delivery of more and more sophistication in live ops, using data to make decisions in terms of game development and game design, and actively managing players post-launch so that we can make the games as successful as possible, improving engagement KPIs and revenue KPIs. This is all good news because this makes lifetime value much more predictable by players and by player cohorts. And it means that when UA spend is being considered, there's much more confidence that the spend by different channels is going to be profitable. So we wanted to dig down a little bit more into that high-level finding. And we wanted to understand what components of the game were generating that improvement in revenues. So we came up with the concept of the deltaDNA index. We put the index at 100, rank 100 for 2016, and then we compared year on year through 2016, 17, 18, and 19. The index is a combination of different factors that go together to make up the gaming economy. The three factors that comprise the deltaDNA index are engagement and retention, percentage of spenders, and the overall income per player. I'll talk a little bit about that over the next couple of slides. But what is really notable is the strong performance of the industry from 2016, when we started the index, through each year that we've measured it, 17, 18, and 19, have all shown strong growth in the index, which shows that mobile gaming economies are in themselves growing strongly as well. This is great news for the industry. It makes the industry much more sustainable. It means that more games are being successful and games are longer lasting. What we saw from the results of the index were that players were sticking around longer, retention was improved, more players are spending, and actually they're spending more, and ads continue to improve their contribution to the gaming economy. But let's delve down into those findings in a little bit more detail. The three charts that you can see at the top of the screen plot year on year the median and the distribution for the three main metrics that comprise the deltaDNA index. On the left hand side, we've got day 30 retention. Are players sticking around for at least 30 days? This has been a big problem within the industry. When we started the business back in 2011, the first session retention rates were poor. Day 1, day 7 was a big challenge, and there was a lot of leakage in terms of UA spend right at the start of the games. So picking day 30 retention as a key metric is important because you're sustaining player engagement through the longer term. And although day 30 retention dropped slightly in 2018 from the statistics you can see on the chart on the left-hand side, it came back strongly in 2019 with a median of 2.24. So we see overall, over the course of the years, that the retention has stayed solid and improving and gives us a good base then to monetize. We already know that engagement comes before monetization. You can't have a successful game without good engagement, without players prepared to spend time. And what we see is a really strong base for sustainable games from these day 30 retention stats. When we start to look at conversion, the percentage of conversion has also improved dramatically, especially the last 2 years, 2018 and 2019, where solid growth has been sustained. And this is a lot to do with more sophistication in player management. It is classic CRM, but it's delivered in the real-time environment of the game. It's the right offer at the right time to the right players, meaning that the percentage of spenders is increasing strongly within the gaming environments that we see on the deltaDNA platform. Finally, we looked at ARPMI. This is the contribution of individual players in terms of overall revenue per monthly active user. You can see that there's solid growth too in this statistic. Our version of ARPMI includes not only in-app purchase, but also ad revenue. And what we can see is that ad revenue has become much more important in terms of the overall gaming economy over the last few years. But the incredibly exciting thing about the recent stats is the ad revenue contribution has been increasing without it diminishing the retention rates. So we're seeing a big transformation, and this is the headline news, that ad income now is also growing, but it's growing and becoming an engagement mechanic as well as a revenue source in its own right. And this is dramatic. We used to see in the industry that ads were, in quotes, a necessary evil. We do an ad survey every year and we get the sentiment in the industry in terms of the approach to ads. And it was only 2-3 years ago when the majority of the results were, in fact, that ads were, in quotes, a necessary evil. And now the sentiment for ads has moved dramatically to the most popular quote in our survey is it's a useful monetization device. So the movement from ads being a churn problem to a retention mechanic is fundamentally transforming game economies and game successes. But let's delve down a little further into that. We're looking at different genres of games now, and we're looking at the distribution of the contribution that ads have in the overall gaming economy. This is for rewarded ads, but it stands equally true for other ad formats. The way to interpret these charts on the right-hand side is maybe to look at the top line, 0 to 20%. This is a proportion of games that have less than 20% of their overall economy being generated by ads. And from 2017 through to 2018 and 2019, for casual and hyper-casual games, we see the percentage falling from 37% to 32%. Another way of saying that is that um, the, the proportion of games that have very little contribution of ads, less than 20% of their overall economy coming from ads, has fallen 5% over those 3 short years. In hardcore and mid-core genre games, the fall has been even more dramatic, from 63% of games having less than 20% of their income contribution from ads to 44%. But we see solid trends like this across all genres. And what we're seeing our clients and our consultants work on through A/B testing and game balancing is an appropriate level of ads, a player-first approach to ads, so that the contribution of ads to the economy is appropriate, it's balanced, it doesn't cannibalize in-app purchase, and it acts as an engagement mechanic so that you get the best of all possible worlds. Of course, building successful games is all about doing lots of little things very well and contributing to the overall success of the game, the sustainability of the players, and the overall balancing of the economy. One thing that we wanted to double check as we started to explore our hypothesis about ads being a retention mechanic was what was the return rate of players who were exposed to ads compared to those that weren't. So we set up a test. We had an exposed group, a segment that were exposed to ads versus a control group where ads were quarantined. And you can see the return rates from day 1, day 3, and day 7 falling nicely between the control and exposed. What this says is that more players are returning because of their exposure to ads over day 1, day 3, and day 7 compared to players that aren't exposed to ads. And at day 7, it's getting pretty dramatic, 26.3% of returns for players that have been exposed to ads versus 23.7% for those that have not. And as I said before, the success of games is the multiple tweaking of various different factors and dynamics within the gaming economy. This is a significant one, and the overall trend that we can conclude from all of these stats is that the gaming economies are flourishing, retention is holding up well, ads are becoming much more important in the overall gaming economy. They're becoming appropriate for all different genres. It's not just tied to one particular genre. And the balancing of ads and in-app purchase in an intelligent way to blend those two economies is where our clients are showing some real success in terms of profitable, successful, and long-lasting games. And finally, what we can see in terms of trends is that this is having a real part to play in the overall sustainability of games in the charts. We looked at how long games had been in the top 10 of the charts for more than 1 year and compared 2018 charts to 2019 charts. And there's only movement up here from 8 to 9 in that 1 year of games at the top of the charts being in there for 1 year. This is good and bad news, right? It's hard to break into right at the top of the charts, but when you do, these games stick around for a long time. When you look at the top 100, games that have been in the top 100 for over 3 years, there is an even more dramatic rise from 47 to 58. So games in the top 100 stick around for a long time. These games last for years now, not for months. And the industry is getting used to having content plans and player management, player lifecycle plans that last for years and not just for months. The burst and fade of games at launch that we experienced when we started the company all those years ago has definitely disappeared. The balancing and the refining pre-launch of the game economy and the game design mechanics then gets transformed after launch into a real focus on segmented live ops and player management, where the KPIs can grow and grow and grow. This is where the sustainability of the games comes from. And it means that the industry does now not have to worry about burst and fade and spending UA money on profitable. There's a virtuous circle of A/B testing, segmentation, sophisticated player management and campaigns that maximize the success of all games. And so what you can see is that all of this combines in something I think as an industry we can be really proud of. We use data in an intelligent and an appropriate and a player-first way. And the games industry has really moved quickly to put data analytics and intelligent CRM at the heart of game development. And this is where the revenue and the attractiveness of our industry combines to show dramatic growth in terms of the overall revenue contributed to the sector. So, having gone through those trends, and a lot of good news in those trends in terms of the sustainability and the profitability of the games and the engagement of players through these really exciting and motivating experiences, let's take a quick tour through some of the mobile engagement best practices that we're seeing out there. So, of course, first you need a good game. The fundamentals don't change. Analytics and player management, A/B testing, all of the things that as deltaDNA we think about day in, day out. The reality is that we can only make good games great. We can't make bad games good. We're all about refining great experiences into wonderful experiences and motivating players to stick around for longer and monetize in the games. So there are a fundamental set of basic mechanics that are deployed to make sure that players are engaged in an appropriate and a motivating way. Let's take a quick tour through some of those key metrics, through some of those key mechanics, excuse me. Regular competitive tournaments are a key motivator for players. They shake up the gameplay. They get people collaborating. It is a very social mechanic. I know from myself, during this lockdown period, I'm a keen golfer, but we aren't able to go and play real golf. So my pals are all playing in golf clash tournaments and clans and having as much fun as we would on the real golf course in the virtual world of the golf clash game. And they're homes for player experiences across different genres and different types of games. using competitive tournaments to shake up the gameplay, to offer people unique and seasonal content. This is a very motivating way of uh, introducing new content, shaking up the gameplay, as we say, uh, giving a better spin on some of the key mechanics, um, mixing up the sort of communication and timing cadence of gameplay. As I said to you, clans and guilds are extremely important in terms of augmenting gameplay, expanding gameplay, giving individual players status, giving clans status in terms of the competitive dynamic, and you're having those bragging rights, player to player or team to team, and making sure that there's a multifaceted dynamic in terms of the different ways and different psychologies for players to engage with the game, their communities, show off their competency, show off their their vanity, really have this rich and engaging set of mechanics that allow players to interact with the games in a way that's suitable for them, and also keep them playing for months and years with this vital content. In terms of overlaying those basic mechanics with engagement and monetization techniques, as I said before, we need a good game. We need solid retention and engagement mechanics, as we've just talked about. But we also need to think about active player management. We need to think about player first approaches to exhibiting and managing game content. And we need to think a bit about the player experience, the realization that there are different types of players in your game, different competencies, different levels of momentum and achievement. All of these players are different, and we need to make the game responsive to them as individuals. So there are certain CRM approaches that we have used as best practices and shared with our clients and the industry to ensure that the players get appropriate interventions to manage them through their player life cycle. Time collection mechanics are really important and vital spur in terms of making sure that players get a natural cadence in their gameplay and have regular reasons to return to accomplish things and to move through, progress through the levels. Lap spenders, content recommendation offers. It doesn't have to be relentless offers and bundles and monetization. Subtlety is also appropriate here in terms of displaying content, making players aware of different bundles rather than actually discounting and pitching them hard, reminding them of reasons to come back to the game, making sure that players understand all the features of the game so that they really understand the environment. Messaging is all about hints and tips, communicating the game features, as well as the monetization opportunities. And the balancing act here in terms of appropriate CRM is combining both of those information objectives and also monetization objectives. But what we've certainly seen is when you start to think about campaigns and comparing campaigns to general gameplay, there is a huge uplift in terms of the responsiveness of players to different types of offers, different seasonal approaches to offers. We know that certain days of the week are more responsive than others. Sunday and Wednesday, for example, are the best days of the week to target people for interventions on responding to bundles and offers and spend opportunities. We did a bit of work on the specific campaigns, and we compared these individual campaigns with the previous week when the campaign wasn't running. And over a range of 12, 15, 20 campaigns of different types, you can see how dramatic the uplifts are in terms of how well players are responding to particular offers that are well timed, are appropriate to them, and targeted at specific segments. So not only do these offers improve monetization, but they also improve retention as well, excuse me. The overall fact is that sessions with in-game offers have a 38% increase in in-app purchase revenue with those that have none. Of course, it's all a balancing act, and you can over-offer players as well as under-offer players. So when we start to think about building up and layering sophisticated campaigns, we also want to make sure that the overall impact of campaigns is positive for players. That's why at deltaDNA we've developed a range of sophisticated campaign strategy evaluations so that you can take your whole individual campaign strategy and you can measure it in terms of a player first approach to see who's over messaged potentially, who's under messaged potentially, and you can make sure that the overall campaigns fit within a sensible, intelligent campaign strategy that builds into an intelligent interaction with individual players. So let's move on from general theories, observations, and trends to some really tangible use cases. The three examples that we have set out on this slide are different examples of use of the deltaDNA platform to achieve really dramatic results in terms of game success. People found on the left-hand side undertook deep analysis and deep segmentation of player behaviors to improve game balancing and economy optimization, increasing ARPDAUs by 400%. Understanding the competency of players versus the difficulty of the level and getting the challenge of the game right for different segments of players really unlocked the word skips game. Casalino did a lot of sophisticated A/B testing to optimize in-game rewards and offers, making those offers appropriate, timely, and well targeted. That resulted in a 200% increase in ARPDAU. Tomatum. This was sophisticated campaign management, promotion, and engagement campaigns, looking at player management, taking a player-first approach, and grew the revenue by over 50% in their game. And each of these examples show that the focus that is now maintained on live ops and player management in games is really reaping rewards in terms of game engagement and game revenue. So let's go on and move and talk about a bit of a case study and some real practical examples of how this works in day-to-day operations. What we've seen in our client base is a really dramatic and powerful and sustained move from using the deltaDNA platform and managing a small number of campaigns, let's say 10, 12, 15 campaigns that are broadly targeted and are generally timed promotions, either around holiday seasons or particular times of the year. We've seen those clients transform themselves into a much more sophisticated approach to player management. This means there could be over 100 live campaigns running at any point in time. It means that there could be up to 160 different player segments and cohorts that are available to target campaigns. You can see the sophistication and the complexity of the interventions is growing dramatically. And the sophistication and complexity is delivering great revenue results and great retention results. But of course, this gives us an interesting challenge in terms of managing how those campaigns are building to a player-first approach. The segmentation, we're so lucky to have rich data to really understand the players in detail and make the interventions as appropriate and timely as possible. We know player competency, we know their momentum, we know their daily cadence in terms of gameplay, we know their purchase. So we can build up much more sophisticated views of the player experience and the player's dynamics than basic location, platform, the very general stats that perhaps we've been used to in previous times. This sophistication of how we can look and understand players means that the campaign management is more and more appropriate and better refined over time. So, good practices in terms of creating those player management strategies. We need, and we would always recommend our clients to create a global control group. It's very important as you go through campaigning and A/B testing that you have a good sense of which campaigns are working and which campaigns are not working. How you can refine your A/B test to optimize on particular opportunities and interventions. Actually getting around that test and learn cycle incredibly quickly means that you're optimizing super rapidly and getting the best possible outcomes from your game. You're also able then to transfer best practices across different games in your portfolio. The global control group unlocks all of that understanding so that you can really optimize quickly and get to the best possible game experience for all of your players. So you need a consistent sample of a randomized group of players. We suggest a 5% holdout group so that the sample size is delivering confidence in the results, and it's used across all campaigns. That means that 5% of your players are going to be underperforming, but the value in terms of the insights that this delivers dramatically outweighs that holdout revenue. Okay, so just to continue the case study, campaigns have been set up, the control group has been excluded. You then get into an evaluation of how the campaign has performed against that control group. Target group versus control group is an essential element in terms of campaign evaluation, not just one campaign by campaign, but over the sum total of all contacts and all interventions that each player segment has been exposed to. At the end of the day, we're measuring the sum total of all interventions, not just one individual campaign, and that's where we really unlock real value in the overall messaging strategy. So let's really delve down into specific examples now. Here is an example of success against control group for, in this case, first-time conversion campaigns. There's a 53% improvement in conversion rates. And the real things that were unlocked through A/B testing here were what is the right bundle for different segments of players? What is the right time within the game to make those offers? Not just the time in terms of which session or elapsed time in terms of gameplay or level that the player reached, but also when in the session the players are most responsive to those offers, so that we know the offers have got to be generous, they have got to be compelling, they've got to be inventory and assets that are appropriate to the player's playing style. The point about first conversion is to make it a no-brainer for the player and using the data analytics and segmentation to really refine that offer so that it is generous and compelling to each individual player that is exposed to the individual campaign. 53% is a very notable improvement on the control group, and the client is proud of that success in terms of first conversion, which is one of the most difficult elements of the gaming economy. First conversion then obviously unlocks repeat spend strategies to improve the overall lifetime value of players overall. But it doesn't need to be the hard sell. In fact, it shouldn't be the hard sell all the time. Informational campaigns add to the game economy and also to the player's playing style and the player's enjoyment of the game. Informational campaigns to new players, we see an average of 9% increase on conversion against control. What we're saying here is softer messages in terms of awareness of bundles in the store, an understanding of what those bundles can achieve to players in terms of their playing style. Information, people need to feel comfortable with the environment. We need to make sure that the players understand what we want them to do, how they can progress and achieve in the game, how they can interact with the different features and mechanics in the game. Informational is a vital part of the overall messaging strategy and adds to the revenue and the enjoyment of players at the same time. And we would highly recommend that that should be a significant component of your overall player management strategy. So just to finish off on the section around best practices and case studies, long-term retention and engagement is much more important than basic revenue. But when you get to basic revenue, think hard about first conversion and how you unlock an intelligent offer to the players. Make sure informational campaigns are part of your messaging strategy. Implement intelligent in-game messaging. We talked a lot about in-game messaging, but also other channels are available, and push can back up in-game information and communications extremely successfully and make a consistency across channels beneficial for all playing styles. Timing is everything. We've talked before about the right offer at the right time. We can also engage with players at their peak performance times and when they're trying to break through a level, if they're failing missions, if their game play is slowing. All of these things we can detect from the data and make timed interventions. Ads are a very, very important part of the revenue stream now, and blending ads with your in-app purchase strategy is a vital component of maximizing LTV, doing that with a segmented approach, and remembering all the while that player first is uppermost in our mind in terms of engagement, being generous, understanding different playing styles, and wrapping our messaging strategies around player segments and getting to know our players so well that the interventions are intelligent, well timed, and appropriate for all players. So I'll finish off this session and talk a little bit about what the future holds for developers. We're obviously on a journey here in terms of the sophisticated use of data and player management to drive improvements in game KPIs and metrics. Part of that is data and predictive segments, modeling is playing a more and more important part of player targeting and player understanding. In deltaDNA, we have a rich suite of predictive models, churn models, and LTV models to support our users in terms of making the right interventions to the right players. Our mission is to provide tools that enable sophistication and best practice to be delivered automatically. So within the toolkit, you can isolate the top 10 players at risk of leaving and start to think about messaging strategies specifically for them. And one key pillar of our future motivations and product delivery is to use predictive modeling, use segmentation much more vigorously to make intelligent interactions with players easier to deliver. The other component of the future that we're thinking about is broadening mobile gaming best practices and reach into other associated sectors. We're doing a lot of work right now in voice recognition apps via Alexa, Google Assistant, and other in-home tools. We see the sophistication of these games growing and growing. This is an expanding market. And other similar markets will come into play and player management techniques will be adjusted and deployed to make sure that engagement and game success are delivered in each of these new sectors as we expand the mobile sector into other devices and other places. However, one of the things that we're super excited about at deltaDNA and also at Unity is how we can really make personalization and individualized personalization real and actionable and a day-to-day experience for our developers and publishers. And what we're working on and we're really excited to talk about is the advent of machine learning to move from a one-size-fits-all approach to the user experience, the player experience, to a segmented approach, to ultimately an individualized approach based on targeting content using machine learning. We sit on a really rich and diverse set of data, and there's lots more information and value and nuggets of insights in that data than we're able to expose project by project via our consulting team or through the good works of our users. Machine learning, we see at Unity, will unlock all of that data and really fast track the competency and the sophistication of player management to the next level, moving to a individualized set of personalization where individual content, be that ads, be that offers, be that hints and tips, be that you're dynamically adjusting the parameters of the game, the best content or the best variant of the game will be delivered to individual players through decisioning that is live and real time so that you really truly get a dynamic environment for each individual player. An example of that is recent case studies that we've delivered on getting the right tutorial length for different types of players. It's clear that in any game there are expert players and there are novice players, and expert players need to be challenged. They are in danger of being bored if the environment is too sluggish. Novice players need nurturing. They need cajoled into spending time in the game. And the tutorial length at the start of the first session is a vital component of unlocking that engagement for those different types of players. So using machine learning techniques, we can now deploy different versions of tutorials based on different players as they reveal their competency to us through their data. This is a really exciting delivery because it really unlocks day one retention. You get players coming back to your second session. The hardest thing about games is getting players to come back from first session to second session. And now we have a way of unlocking that through deploying different tutorials to different players based on our machine learning outcomes. So the benefits of this is a general improvement in lifetime value, time savings in terms of the project work that data science and game designers deploy to solve these problems one at a time, and mitigating risk. We are truly unlocking the data in an impressive way now and making sure that games are successful and predictable in terms of their income and giving our clients confidence in going into the user acquisition market and their budgets are going to be spent profitably. So we feel that machine learning and specifically the GameTune product that is being developed by Unity will move us to the next level of player management, give our players much more appropriate interventions, and improve the overall KPIs and sustainability of all games. So we are on the journey to move from predictions being based on broad segments and overall eCPM estimates to predicting player level in-app purchase and ad consumption and blending these economies appropriately for each individual player. This is a dramatic improvement in terms of sophistication and dynamism. And the advent of tools like deltaDNA and Unity Live Ops tools will allow our clients and our users to really engage with these much more sophisticated player management techniques. So I hope you've enjoyed that tour around trends, best practices in the future. We'd love to speak to you about our experiences and yours as well. You can contact us at info@deltadna.com and check out our trial and demos on our website. But overall, thank you for listening. I've enjoyed being with you today, and let's get on with making better games, more sustainable games, and delivering better player experiences through sophisticated in-game player management. Thank you for your time.